Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to go ahead and get started. So here's our agenda for tonight. For those of you who attend regularly, you'll see it's pretty much the same areas of discussion for this evening. And our speakers are our own board members who are going to be introducing a new topic that they'll talk about that a little bit more, but introducing this for our monthly meetings. And then we have the representatives for the public hearing at the 4100 Pine Island Road, Matlacha rezoning request. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Just reminders about please silence your phones. And if you do need to have a side conversation, we just ask that you take it outside so that we can give our speakers the attention that they deserve here tonight. Okay, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Steve for probably the next how many?
5 minutes. Yeah. Thank you. And I'm going to have to move over here a little bit because I can't refer to that screen. So this is the October 31st Treasurer's Report. And you can see on the left-hand side we have for the month of October, and then I have a year-to-date income statement. So for the month of October, we had $454, I'm rounding off. In total income, we had $353 in expense, and we made $101. The larger expenses were, we always pay $100 for the church, for the rental, so we can sit in here and have our meetings. And then, as we did last year, we had a seedlings giveaway, which Nadine, we did in December of last year. And we've decided to move it to February of 2024. Valentine's Day, right? If we can make it happen. So that was $215 of the $353 in terms of expenses. We had a number of memberships, and we also had interest income on our investments. Again, totaling net income of $101. On a year-to-date basis, we have total income of just about $5,000, kind of equally split between interest income on our investments and membership dues. And you can see the expenses there. I always point out that, our two really big expenses are the $100 for this facility every month. So, we'll do 11 months, so it'll be $1,100 this year for facilities rental. And then our two insurance. So we have general liability insurance, and we have directors and officers liability insurance. And that works out to be a little over $1,360. So our net income for the year is $1,448.86, so $1,500. Let's just kind of round that off on a year-to-date basis. Deb, if you want to move on to the investments. There we go. So our ending balances, essentially, I look at this as our cash availability of $13,373. I always say the board has instructed me to have ready cash in the amount of $10,000. So we're obviously over that number. We'd like to actually take that down, but have decided the way we want to do that is to set up our CD ladder so that we have money coming due every month, and then we feel like we can take cash levels down a bit. And I did a little bit of work on this. At the end of September, we had a CD mature. It was for $20,000. No, it was for $15,000, and I broke it into 3 separate months of $5,000 apiece. And we have another CD that matures on December 10th, and I'll do exactly the same thing. I'm trying to fill in the months so, that we would have, $5,000 to $10,000 maturing every month, and that way we feel much more comfortable taking down our cash balance. We don't normally have, significant cash needs, but we just want to be prepared in case we ultimately do. Our last certificate of deposit matures October 26th of 2026, so just about a year out. So I've been, with the thought of lowering interest rates going forward, I've been lengthening out the portfolio a little bit, but again, trying to fill in monthly maturities so that we eventually come up with a ladder that has something maturing literally every month. Any questions? Normally there's silence. Sounds like we got it again. So thank you, Deb. I'm sure you can't read this, and I've got to get better at this. I was talking to Deborah a little bit about this today. These are the minutes from our October meeting. If you were here, you sort of know what went on. If you weren't here, you can't read it, so it doesn't really matter. What I really need to do is I need to post them, a couple of weeks in advance and get Nadine to put something out so that everybody knows they've been posted and you can read them in advance. I'm going to ask you to trust me one more month, and then I'll get better at it and start posting them a couple of weeks in advance for you. If you remember, the presentation was from the Pine Island Fire Department, so they sort of updated us on what's going on there. There were some community and island updates in terms of activities that were going on. And then I did my treasurer's report for the month of September like I did in October. Nothing controversial in terms of the minutes. So I'm just going to ask for somebody to make a motion to accept them, and second.
Move to approve.
Thank you. You've read them, I know. And a second. Bob, thank you. Is there anybody that's opposed? Okay, then we'll show them as accepted. So Deborah, if you want to move into yes. So she will do that in a minute. The development presentation. Yes.
Wait, no. The one that Stephen Stewart doing, not the guest presentation.
Right, correct. Okay, so I'm going to make some comments before we do that. Obviously, the first thing that I probably want to say is that I've spent a lot of time over the last 9 months trying to get up to speed on the development and zoning issues that are going on Pine Island, which would include Matlacha. And we tried this, I think it was in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. And we had a nice turnout on a Saturday morning, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And we had somebody that was actually going to try and lead that. And kind of at the last minute, she backed away from doing that. Unfortunately, we didn't really have anybody that could kind of pick up the slack until I retired a couple of years ago. So I've taken it upon myself to try and do all the research. Hence, we are asking for a couple of people that are reasonably computer literate to help in this project, because I found it to be an awful lot of work, and there's an awful lot more I could do if I wasn't doing all the searching. And so if you're so inclined, I feel like it gives me a really good comprehension in terms of the things that are upcoming on the island, whether it's zoning or whether it's not. And I feel like I can talk about anything that's pretty much going on the island kind of at the time. I don't know about so much the future. I don't know a ton about the past, but I certainly know about the development zoning issues that are going on. And so that's what I'm going to cover here today. I would also say, look, I'm just an interested citizen. I'm not a professional at this. I go through a lot of county records. I understand some of the stuff. I don't understand other things. The reality is that you don't have to be an expert. I can certainly show people how to get where they need to go. But a lot of it's just follow-up. I've gotten a couple of decent contacts within the county now, and so I can send emails and say, hey, what about this? And they'll come right back to me and say, here's the answer for you, or you need to go in another direction, or whatever the case might be. So I just want you to know that as I present this information, I'm presenting what I think are the facts as I know them. Whether it's correct as I know them, I don't know. I find a lot of stuff is hard to find. There seems like there's holes sometimes. There's things that seem like they get slipped through, and all of that. But I'm doing the best I can. I think, you know, a few more people would help maybe tighten this process up a little bit and follow up on things that I just have to leave behind because I'm working on other issues. And so the whole point of this was, at one point in time, we seemed like we were behind the curve. And when I say behind the curve, what I really am indicating is that stuff would be happening and we'd be finding out about it long after the development order or the project application had been filed with the county. So we're at the end of the process scrambling around trying to maybe oppose it, but not really in a position to be able to do so. So my intention was, let's get at the front of the process. I want to know when the applications come in and somebody says, I want to do this project, and I want to see the application, and then I want to follow that process through. And there aren't a ton, but there's enough that, you know, if we had 4 or 5 people and they took 3 projects apiece, I think we could drill down into these things until we really, really did understand the issues. You have something you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, first of all, I have almost no voice. I'm Sue DeHote. I'm a board member. I've already offered to help Steve with this project, so I'm just kind of coming up to speed. Steve and I have met once, and he's given me the information that he's found so far. So I would encourage you to, if you have the skills and have the time, to pitch in and help us with this. I think it'll help us know what's going on and be in a position to intelligently try to push back as much as we can if we think development isn't in the best interests of the island. That's all.
So I'll give you a prime example. I happen to live in Boquilla. I live on Barrancas. You know, I wear the hat of I'm a citizen, but I'm also on the board here. At the beginning of my street, they're talking about putting a cell phone tower up. I knew about that cell phone tower before the Greater Pine Island Civic Association knew about it, because I go in every month and I look at the applications that are coming into the county, and I looked at this thing and it said Boquilla Tower, and I said, I live in Boquilla. Why don't I know about this? And so then I started researching, and I'm leading the effort in terms of opposition to that at this stage of the game for our neighborhood. But it's that kind of thing. We could have found out about it, you know, months afterwards and not really been in a position to do much about it, but we've been there sort of every step of the way because I saw when the application actually came in. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here, be it at the front and make sure that we agree and that we have our voices heard in terms of what they're proposing to do. I'll also just make a side comment real quick, and that is, we had somebody here a couple of months ago. I just happened to re-listen to this membership meeting from August, and there was a representative talking about a project, and she basically said in the middle of the meeting, she said, you guys wouldn't even approve the ice cream shop. She said that. And so we have to be careful. We need to grow, but we need to grow reasonably. And we can't be, no, we don't want anything to happen to this island. It's going to happen, and we just have to insert ourselves at the beginning of the process and make sure that our voices are heard in terms of what it is that we want to do. So without further ado, understanding that I'm not a professional, but I'm acting like one, we'll go. Say that again? Yeah, no, and I don't care if you attack. The one thing I'll tell you around the tower issue is I get a lot of telephone calls, and I would just tell all of you, if you see things that aren't really covered here that are going on, and I'm talking about the bigger projects, because there's a lot of stuff in either zoning or development particularly in zoning where people need setback variance because they're rebuilding after Ian and it's gonna, encroach 2 feet on the setbacks. That stuff I've left off of what we see here. I took the big projects that would seem that, make sense for us to be talking about, not if the Smiths decide in Matlacha they need a 2.5 foot, variance setback. I see stuff in there where people need, approval for adding a fence to their property. We don't really care about that. Let the county deal with that. We need to deal with the bigger projects. So, Deborah, if you can, I guess I can do this, right? Wrong way.
But not with that button.
Apparently not. Okay. So first thing we're going to talk about is the development projects. And I'm going to start out with sort of an easy one because this is way past us already. And this is Orchid Cove, and this is what is behind Publix. People drive by there, they see stuff happening, they don't know really what's going on, and I thought, hey, great way to start. I'll just tell you what's going on back there. And then everybody will be in the know that showed up for this meeting. So Orchid Cove, I think it's Miranda Homes is building back there. It's going to be 17 units. 4 of those units are going to be common, so there'll be a pool, there'll be a clubhouse, and a couple other things. I don't know what they are. And then there are going to be 13, I think 4 and 6 unit multifamily housing. Is that right, Sue? Yeah. So think 13 of those, and that's basically what it looks like. Sue was there yesterday. She took a picture. And ultimately, one of those pods, one of the 13 pods, is basically it's all the way up to the shingles.
Yeah, the one nearest the Publix is built. They're still working on it, but the structure's there. It's pretty close to being finished, and the road is in as well. So you can now drive back there and go all the way to Birdsong, I believe, along the
Prices
construction.
are low 300s.
I think it's prices. The sign said prices start in the low 300s.
There you go. So that's what we know about that project at this stage of the game. Obviously, 12 more units to be built, and the facilities that go with it, the pool, and all of that stuff. You had a question? Yeah,
Can you come up to the mic, please?
I'm loud. I don't really need this, but Mary Fowler, St. James City. Anyhow, weren't those originally supposed to be single-family units when that project originally started? I don't know, pre-Ian? Weren't they supposed to be single-family?
Anybody know, Deborah?
Okay, so I've been following it for a while. It's always been multiple. Always been multiple. And it looks like what's changed, they were considering putting a drive to Birdsong, but the lot that they owned, I don't think was wide enough for the commercial that they wanted to do. So it looks like, according to this representation, they have like a pathway now rather than a driveway.
Down Birdsong, because I know
Yes.
that was a big issue back,
Yes.
I don't know, 5
Yes, it
years
was.
ago.
But
And I thought
according
they
to
were
this
supposed to be
represent,
townhomes.
yeah, it was, yeah, well, it's condos, townhomes, kind of,
Just curious.
yeah.
So a vast majority of us go to Publix at one time or another, and so drive back there and just see. It sounds like it's one way in, one way out, and it's out through Publix. So I'll go ahead and take this. I'm just going to say to you, I'm not sure that we can stop for questions on each of these because I've got 18 slides, but go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Hey, and just so everybody understands, it's not for the people here, it's for the people that are on Facebook, right? Yes, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm Judy Ott. I think there's a conservation easement associated with Publix, and I don't know how that relates to the Orchid Cove, but somebody should follow up on it, because I don't think it's been documented. I don't think it's been put through. It's required, and I don't think it's been put through yet. It may or may not involve the Calusa Land Trust, but it doesn't exist yet.
Can you follow up with an email to info@gpica.org? And
Just remind us.
yeah, thank you.
And then one of you lucky people who volunteers is going to get to research that. That may cause people not to want to. Okay, so that's what we know about that project. Deb, I guess I can go on. It's here.
Project has a development order. That means it's done. It's happening. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So Bokeelia Harbor Resort, unbelievable. My parents used to live in Seagull Bay, and in 2004, when this development order was granted, I think my parents were actually fighting this along with all the neighbors right down there, believe it or not, and it still remains. All I can tell you, and it's been a while since I've been down there, but if you've driven down there by where Captain Cons is, there's a very high seawall. You know, it's about this high above the ground that is being put in, but it's just not really clear what else is going on. Now, the interesting part about this is you can see, I think when my parents literally were fighting it, it was called Bokeelia Island Seaport Project. I put that off to the side. And they have a development order, but the interesting thing about development orders is they get granted and they have extensions that can be attached to them. And early on, the extensions were, it was every 5 years, sort of automatically if they did anything to the property. But as of late, because of, oh my goodness, Tropical Storm X, Tropical Storm Y, Tropical Storm Z, Ian, Milton.
Every time the county declares a state of emergency,
Yes,
extended.
they get a development order extension, including for COVID, and including for, what did I tell you? Opioid addiction. This project that was begun in 2004 when they got the development order has now been extended to 2033. Yes, yes. And let me add to this, and Deb, you'll back me up. There are development orders all over Pine Island that, for one reason or another, have been extended as well. Because again, as long as you're making incremental progress on the property towards the development order and nobody really checks, you get it extended. And I don't know how many you think there probably are. I read something that said there were 13,000 development orders. Is that true?
I know there's a lot of them that are still out and open.
Yeah.
Some of them have just, they started the process and just kind of died off. But there's a lot out there, and some of them are old, prior to the system that the county currently has. And it's a little challenging to find them. Okay, so my favorite one that I pick on is the nudist colony. That is, you see the wall towards St. James City. That particular development was approved back in '83, and it's still current, active, and available to build, because it keeps getting extended. Or if they put in the plumbing for the septic at the time, and it's been abandoned, but that approved it and kept the development going forward. So it's still active, and it's still, you know, so there's a few programs, you know, developments like that out there.
And here's where one of my blind spots is, and that is that I don't understand in 2004 when it was approved, if they can do things that were approved at that point in time, but if they make any changes, they need to come back to the county, or they can just keep on going because they've got the development order. I just don't know the answer to that. You can see what they sort of proposed in 2004 to do, but whether that's what's really going to happen or not, I just don't have any real idea. And you know, to Deb's point, with all those development orders that exist out there, that have just been sort of carried over. I know at one point in time, 2 or 3 years ago, we actually talked to the county about potentially just taking them off the books, and they seem to have no appetite to do that. But we've discussed potentially resurrecting that issue with the county again, but here's where volunteer support probably comes in, because we need to figure out what all those properties are. We got a data mine for all of that information. I know Deb has some of it, but you know, that's just a whole separate project in this development thing where we could get our act together and we could go to the county and say, look, we know all of the DOs and we want you to consider sunsetting some of those, because the reality is that they're getting pushed forward without really doing anything, because there's nobody coming out here to look to see if anybody's done any work on a DO'd property. If it's active, yeah, but something from 2000 or 1983, there's nobody looking at that. They're just carrying it forward. So there's plenty of work to be done here. I guess that's what I'm really trying to say. Good, thank you.
Only if you come up to the mic.
Yes, thanks. Yes.
Sorry, please.
Yes. Well, and now you can say you've done Facebook. Thanks. They want to hear you.
So my name is Glenn McKee. I live in Bokeelia, and I was just out for a walk the other day. I wanted to look at the boat ramp there because Lavender's closed.
Yep.
And they have a little shack there where you stop to pay your $20. And there was a woman working in there, and here is what she told me. And they do have the site plan posted on the wall inside the building. And my neighbor Matt found it on the Lee County website somehow, but he can't remember how he got to it. Buried in
You're
there
hired.
somewhere. This little shack that's sitting
they
there where
charge the
she
$20
collects the
for.
$20.
At Lavender's Landing?
No.
No.
At the tip of Bokeelia.
Yeah. So it's, as you know, the seawall is in.
Yeah.
They are going to bring in enough dirt to raise the ground level 3 feet.
You could tell that. Yeah.
And it's like an 8-acre site. That's a lot of trucks
Yeah.
going down the road, right? And then they're going to build 49, she called them homes on the site plan. They call it mobile homes. But they'll have to be manufactured. And how can they, can't be too mobile if they're on stilts, right? They're on 8-foot stilts. So they'll be, you know, up above the floodplain. 49. And then they're going to extend the dock into Back Bay and have 102 slips, which they said has been approved. The rest of this has not, I believe, been approved.
It was a big fight back in 2004. I had not been out here that long, and Hurricane Charlie was that year, but it was a big fight. Residents tried to fight it. I think they successfully were unable. They were trying to get above the height restrictions, and they were trying to do a lot of condos. So they successfully kept that down, but obviously.
Yeah, so they'll have their own on-site sewer plant. There'll be a swimming pool, and these docks are, you know, more than they need for the homes that are there. So they will be renting out the other slips, and they have parking available for cars, not very many for trailers, but for people who are renting the slips. So, yeah.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. All I'll tell you is I've got the development order number there. You can see it. And I've been there and I've searched that development order, and none of that stuff is there, or I would have updated it. So obviously it's someplace and you found it, and you know, I'd be interested. I'll learn something too.
There's your camera.
So
Here it is, wherever you are.
that's great. Well, now I know I'm going to go down and pay $20 just so I can look inside.
Very nice lady. This is a man and woman from Pennsylvania. They're developers that bought it from Hightower. And she worked, the woman that was in there, worked for this developer who has a resort type thing in New Jersey, and she transferred down there. She lives in Bokeelia, very nice.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks for that. I really do appreciate it. Good. So we'll move on because I've got about of these development projects. Well, that's the wrong way. So here. So this is called Atlas Lakes, and I would tell you if you guys have anything to add, please speak up. This is just a mystifying thing. I've got a picture there. I'll show you. I don't think we have a pointer, but this is Winn-Dixie right here. This is the space behind it. It's Paw Circle, P-A-W, Circle. It's owned by, I think, something called Atlas Lakes. And I've talked to Mark Washburn at Lee County. This is what he wrote me back after I started talking to him about this. The interesting part that we've all been mystified about, and maybe some of you have seen it, is that at one point in time there was some advertising circulating for something called Margarita Bungalows. And there was actually a realtor's number to call, and I called the number and I said, hey, tell me what's going on. I'm interested, so he obviously thinks he's going to sell me one of these properties. And he told me we were just around the corner, and that was 6 months ago, and I haven't heard anything back. And so I almost get the impression that they tried to create a community by doing some advertising with Margaritaville attached to it. So I can't really tell you. Their DO basically is for a 111 lot platted subdivision, and then he goes on and says, oh, it doesn't look like that's what they're going to do. It looks like they're going to have a condo association. Yeah, so that's a whole day's worth of effort to get back with Mark and say, so explain to me what you're talking about. So hopefully you're getting the impression that this is just not an easy process for one or two people to do. We need a little bit of manpower to make this stuff happen. That's the most I can tell you about that. I don't really know what's going on. I just know where it is, and it seems like it's morphed a couple of different times. Yes?
They have a website for Pine Island included on it.
Is that the bungalows or is that Atlas Lakes?
Atlas Cottage Homes,
Yeah. So,
that property.
yeah. And there again, it's a whole nother half day to just go out and research these things on the internet and try and figure it all out. So, more to be had on this one as well. And then I showed you, I took a picture of this, Margarita Bungalows, island fun fueled by the sun, and it says it's in popular Bokeelia or Pine Island, and it says powered by Tesla. So, and that was that property, supposedly. But I haven't had the guy come back to me, even though I pinged him last Thursday or Friday. I said, hey, what's going on? And I've not heard a word from him, so I don't know. Pine Island Open Storage. So this was just recently approved. It was a development order that was, application was put in 2022. It was just approved a month or a month and a half ago. And this is for open storage on Pine Island Road. And I get these confused a little bit, but it's basically, I think, maybe on the west side of the water department. Yes, almost right across, yeah. So it just got approved, so I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on there in terms of, getting bids and trying to figure that all out. But it really, as you can see there, it says for boats and RV storage on 4.78 acres, which they never came here and talked to us about it. And not that they have to. They have multiple ways that they can obviously hold a public information meeting, and they chose not to come here and not to talk to us about it.
How did they hold their public information meeting?
It was a meeting at John R. Wood's office where 2 people attended. So,
It was only advertised, it was advertised in the Eagle the day they held their public information session. So we've been trying to get to the county and talk to them about this problem of not advertising the meetings so nobody could attend and ask them questions. It's a work in progress. I'll just leave it at that.
again, another thing that, another project around development that could go on. Yes, sir.
Evening, George Samalot. Isn't this seems so similar to a presentation that was made, I want to say in September?
August. Yes, almost. Yes.
It's a different
Are
project.
they neighbors?
They are
Yes.
just about, yeah.
That was Betsy Parkway MFD. We're getting to it, but yes, there is some similarity. This is very, very clear that it's open surface lot storage for boats and RVs and stuff like that. So there's still obviously a pile of work to be done, but it is what it is. So this is another project across the street from Winn-Dixie. You see, and you got to look back a ways. There's a lot of big earth-moving pieces of equipment back there, and this is owned by Terra Blue Aquacultural Farms, and they are constructing effluent management ponds. And if you read my second line there, it says Terra Blue Aquarium Farms is a U.S.-based company that designs and builds land-based sustainable fish farms. It is an aquacultural company that focuses on sustainable fish farming, and it has been an active venture since at least early 2020. Now, to some extent, it's kind of a cool thing because we are becoming known as a place where aquaculture takes place. We've obviously got the shrimp farm. Potentially this, though, they're only building 3 of what looks like 11 effluent ponds at some point in time. And I don't know if y'all are familiar, but there is a redfish aquaculture farm that's going on in St. James City. And that's down the road already, so it's not like we're going to stop it. In fact, I keep trying to get in there to just, understand what they're going to do because I have an interest in that. But in this particular case, the part I don't understand is they've got space there and they've got architectural drawings for, another 3, 4, 5, 6 more effluent ponds, but they're only building 3. There's a bunch of days' work. Like, why only 3? Are they that's what they got approved? But have they revealed to the county, even though we've got this picture, what their full plan is? Does the county even look at that, or do they just say, oh, they're doing 3 effluent ponds, this is what they need to do for those 3 ponds, and move on, only for them to come back and say, we want to build 3 more, and oh, by the way, we're a full-fledged aquacultural farm company. I don't know, but more work that needs to be done in terms of trying to understand these projects and to dig a bit deeper into them. I'm not opposed. I just don't understand the whole concept of why partially, and if they told the county what their entire plans are. I don't know that. Pine Island Fire Department Station, if you were here at the last meeting, you knew that this was going on. This is a development project as well. That's a picture of the front and the back. I think if you were here at the meeting, you found out that it's funded by a little over $5 million from Housing and Urban Development. They're raising the entire fire station number 2 down in St. James City, and they're rebuilding with a helipad and a couple of other things. So it's going to be a state-of-the-art fire station. And probably not much more needs to be said than that because we just had a meeting on that, and it, to me, it's pretty simple. And then this, you might or might not know this, is almost for informational purposes, but it is a development order as well. The Way Assembly of God, which is on Cubals, is that how you say it? So the Fish Streets. They have a small little church now, and they're going to build 333 square feet of a fixed structure for their church. And again, not terribly controversial. It's a nice piece of property. It's a nice little church. It'll be obviously a bigger church. But the reality is they have a development order. They haven't really done much other than kind of tell the county, hey, we're going to do this, and they've actually asked for a waiver request for the time limit so they can feed more information into the county in terms of the application and things like that. So I would say from a development standpoint, you're pretty much up to date. There may be things you know about. If you do, email to
info@gpica.org.
Or figure out how to get a hold of me and say, hey, I ride around, I literally ride around wherever I'm going, and I ride down side streets and I just look for stuff. So, if you see stuff that it's like, well, Steve didn't really talk about that, or this is happening, then, get a hold of us. And I found some really interesting things too, believe it or not. So now the zoning apps. Upper Captiva Carriage Club. So Sue's gonna.
Yeah, so this was a project that got presented to our group here when we were over at the Methodist Church back, I believe it was November of 2023. And at the time, they had a proposal with storage and a sort of a waypoint station for material going out to the upper islands, to Upper Captiva and to some of the other, Usepa, some of the other islands. So this was in a kind of a cycle where the developers presented to us, they presented to the county, and the county said, no, that isn't going to fly. So there were a whole bunch of about a year and a half's worth of requests from the county to provide more information, and then that information being provided by these developers. It got to the point where about, 2 weeks ago, we, Chris and I went to the zoning approval meeting down in Fort Myers, and basically the developers were at the point where they wanted to ask officially for the zoning to be changed from ag to a type of commercial. I think it was commercial small scale or something to that effect. And if you were all here at the meeting 2 years ago, there have been changes. The most significant are that they've reduced their footprint of what they're going to, essentially pave. They did do an ecological study and found some endangered pawpaw trees and 2 gopher tortoise burrows on the property. And they've decided to, rather than relocate, they're going to accommodate. So they've moved things around so that the trees aren't going to be dug up and the gopher tortoise burrows are going to be less disturbed. They've also changed, they were going to put in a fence, or a wall, actually, to prevent people from being able to see in. There was some concern from the neighbors. They didn't want to be looking at a wall. They've changed that to be essentially a wall of trees. So they're going to put in, their privacy wall is now going to be trees, and they're going to have a chain link fence inside of that wall. So on the inside parts that you are supposedly not going to see the fence in order to accommodate some of the comments from neighbors. The plan is still, as it was back 2 years ago, to have an entrance for trucks off of Stringfellow on the north side of this property, and have the trucks, and the trucks are bringing in primarily goods that go out to the outer islands, and also apparently like UPS and, you know, Amazon deliveries for staging. They are proposing a reduction from about 125 parking places to, I believe, somewhere in the 90s. And the original proposal had boat storage there for short-term boat storage. They've totally gotten rid of the short-term boat storage. So it'll be long-term car parking, really for people who are going to the islands. That's the new plan. And the trucks pull in off of Stringfellow, they pull out off of Maria on the east side, and then we'll go back onto Stringfellow off of Maria Drive. The plan is to have key card gates or combination gates at all three entrances and exits. So if you want to park there, you go on a website and you reserve your parking spot and pay for it. They were going to charge $20 a day for the offshore parking, and I think they said for Pine Islanders they'd make it $15 a day. But since it's no longer going to be any boat access, it really doesn't matter. There are 3 spots for either boats and trailers or RVs, because they said that Pine Island needs boat and RV storage. Clearly, there are other places to do that, but they're going to do it anyway. And I think that's about it. There were any other major changes to the proposal? Yeah, they have a slight variance on the way they're doing trash handling, but it's only for the people on the site.
I know originally they were going to put a right turn lane in there going south.
That is
still
up in the
accurate?
air. That
Because
is
I know
not,
when that development order came in, that was an original plan, that they were going to have a right turn lane coming south into that property, which is very residential. I don't know if anybody's ever drove back there, but there's wild hogs back there, there's ponds, there's beautiful birds. Just saying.
what they said
And that used
was,
to be a public boat ramp. It also used to be a co-op down there. So I don't know how
Yes.
they're going to put gates and charge people
oh, that's only on the corner.
$20
The
and-
gates are only on the corner. It's only on their little piece that's on Maria and Stringfellow. Yeah, that's all we're really talking about. The co-op and the marina at the end of the road, they no longer are going to have a shuttle. They're no longer going to have private boats going back and forth. This is really just mainly for commercial traffic to the outer islands. Yeah.
I want to say it flashed back to the presentation the gentleman he made here. He seemed to present himself as the owner of the property.
There was a father-son,
Rights,
the
they're the
Wainwrights,
owners.
and I
Yeah.
believe they are the owners. I'm not sure who was here last
Are.
time. And then they have a guy who's their spokesperson and puts together all their drawings and stuff. So,
Well, question became is, I was led to believe it was all about inducing recreational fishing to the ramp, the municipal ramp at the Maria Drive. He was going to have 3 stores for people to be able to rent and sell bait and tackle and whatever. And he was going to offer a shuttle where you could park your trailer.
that's not
Changed.
part.
It's exclusively for the residents of North Captiva.
Yes.
Yes. They got rid of all of that.
So Sue, what was the result of the hearing? Something is,
So the bottom line is the hearing took place. It was multiple presentations, and anybody who wanted to speak could speak. There were probably 10 or so people who spoke, including several residents from that area. Chris and I both spoke. The bottom line is that the county has approved, at the current point in time, the county has approved of pretty much everything that they've done to satisfy the questions. I think there were a couple of outstanding questions which the developers have, I think until the November 7th was the date. They had 2 weeks, and there seems to be very little that's going to change. So the most likely outcome is going to be that the hearing examiner is going to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners that this zoning request gets approved.
I mean, respectfully, that last I left it seemed to be something that was going to offer revenue to the island. And
It-
now it seems it's.
I asked that question, you know, I said, this is a whole new project. Why are we rezoning ag for something that doesn't even need close access? There's a lot of commercial property within a mile of this site. Why don't you do it there? And essentially the answer was,
It's all about the money.
as long as they fulfill the commitments that the county has requested of them, it doesn't matter. That it might not be the greatest business proposal, but that's not what the county's job is. The county is to make sure all the boxes are checked and all the questions are answered and all the rules are followed. And as long as they follow all the rules, they can get their zoning change.
Discouraging, but thank you.
Yeah.
So I would just then offer the reminder that if you did speak at the hearing examiners meeting and you did go on the record, that when this comes before the county commission, and I'm sure Civic Association will represent, but that when that time comes, that you attend that meeting and speak before the county commission makes their final vote.
But they can only speak to the county commissioners if they spoke
That's correct.
already
That's
at
what
the
I
HEX
said.
meeting.
If you attended the hearing examiners meeting and
Yeah.
spoke, then you should also speak at the county commission,
Right.
assuming you have something to say.
And you can only talk about what you talked about it.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, they told us that too.
Yeah.
So you could only talk about at the commission's meeting whatever you asked the questions about at the hearing examiner meeting. There was actually one gentleman from Upper Captiva who knew all about the co-op and was basically saying he didn't think this was a good idea either, and that there's no place to land in Captiva, and you know he had a lot of objections. He was a younger guy. He said this was just didn't make sense to him. Yeah.
I'll make a couple of points off of that. The first point I
Yeah.
would make is, I think Sue alluded to something that's real important here. Just because you think it's a bad business idea, that's not what the county's in the business of. You know, I guess if ultimately we got the same type of business and we got 50 of them, talking car washes in Cape Coral, self-storage, you know, it obviously could be a problem, but it's not really the county or even the city of Cape Coral's business in terms of what's going on. Their job is to enforce the legal part of it, and we may hate the business, but as long as they meet and all the checks and so forth, then, you know, the project will go forward.
Yeah.
The second thing that I want to do is just give you kind of a really quick timeline of how this process works. And I know this. So the application comes in, and the county takes that application and they send it to all their departments, and all their departments make comments back. And then they send a letter back to the applicant, and it's called an insufficiency letter. And it says your application is insufficient for the following things. So on the Bokeelia Tower, there were 25 insufficiencies. Then the county, then the applicant has 30 days or so to respond back. In the Bokeelia, in the tower situation, they responded back with 252 pages of information for those 25 questions. The county sent it out again. They came back with 12 more questions, so a second insufficiency letter went out. And now the information has come back from the applicant, 87 pages. And then at some point, either the project just doesn't go forward for whatever reason, or the county determines that the application is sufficient. Not saying that all the answers are the best answers in the world. It's just that they have sufficiently worked to answer all the questions and dot all the I's and provided all the information that the county wanted. At that point in time, there is a hearing that is set up. That hearing is normally about 2 months out. It's called a HEX hearing, H-E-X, and it stands for hearing examiner or something or other, in which that's what Sue and Christine went to, was the HEX hearing. In that 2-month period, there's a planner within the county who is the point of contact. and we had a point of contact for the Bokeelia Tower. And again, I'm using that just because I know this. The county planner basically provides an opinion, either a denial or approval of the application. That's what, along with all the letters that you write in favor of, not in favor of, goes into a file. All that's turned over to the hearing examiner. The hearing examiner then makes a rule, approval or denial, and we have a little, I'm a little unclear based on some information that I've heard. If it's a zoning issue, I think that it stops at the hearing examiner's plate. Whatever they decide is the end of the story. If it's a development order, the way I was told, then it goes to the county commissioners. They put on their hat as planning,
They're the planning board,
planning
essentially.
board, and they have to approve developments, but not zoning issues. If they don't rule in your favor in terms of a zoning issue, your only course of action, as I understand it, is to sue in circuit court. So that is the process that we're going through and that everybody essentially will end up going through.
Where's the Bokeelia Tower?
Yeah, literally on the, oh, yeah, I think we're getting there.
Okay.
Hang in there. So Betsy Parkway, MFD, and I had to write this down just so MFD stands for MPD, is that what it says? I wrote it down someplace. At any rate,
Multi-planned development.
there it is. Multi-use plan development. So at any rate, this was the one that somebody just asked about. Like this sounds like something we just had when you look at the Pine Island open storage project. This is a project that is 50,000 square feet of commercial. It's 100 and, what's it say? It's a district to allow 275,000 square feet of industrial and 50,000 square feet of commercial. It basically is behind where the old Bank of America building, that's kind of included in these two parcels that you see right there. And just so you know, because it's this parcel right here, subject property, and actually the old Bank of America building, and there is now a dermatologist that practices out of here. So you kind of know right where that is. But you know, when they were here, what they basically talked about is, in the industrial part of it, we're probably going to do storage. You know, open storage, open storage, open storage, and then when you get close to the parking lot, they do closed storage, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So 275,000 square feet of open storage, essentially, which sort of sounds like. And in fact, the person who is the owner of the property from the Pine Island open storage was here at the meeting when the Betsy Parkway people made their case, and her question was, we don't really need any more of these. Well, of course, because you're trying to put in 4.75 acres worth of that. So at any rate, that's what's going on there. They're going through their process. They're in the process, as I said, they're insufficiency letters. So the first one has gone out and basically said, you're insufficient. I don't know how many, but that's all the county departments looking at the application and saying, we don't think they provided sufficient answers and you need to do it. So, you know, sufficiency letters can just go on and on and on. You know, I sort of think 2, maybe 3 max, and you know, then at some point in time, it's either got to die on the vine or the county's going to say it's sufficient, and we're going to, you know, we're going to set up a HEX hearing going forward. Blue Dog Restaurant, CPD. That stands for Commercial Plan Development. And in there, it says something about consumption on premises. They're in review, I think, because they want to put outside patio seating behind the restaurant, and the county's requiring them to have more parking spaces, and so they're arguing, trying to get a variance around that. And they're getting ready at some point in time to go to a HEX hearing on that subject. You know, a lot of people love Blue Dog, you know, for you know, a multitude of reasons. You know, we sent a letter to the county and basically said, we like Blue Dog. You know, that was it. I'm not sure that we were, I just feel like we're in support of it and they just need to go on their own. I've seen, you know, a lot of very flowery letters written on behalf of Blue Dog. I didn't get that from our people when we sent the letter, and we basically said we just support Blue Dog to the county and let the county do what they need to do.
When they did their development in front of our group, we
Yes.
took a vote. So it was the vote of the room that we would support it.
Yes. And if you remember that whole thing, unfortunately, and I forget the guy's name that actually made the presentation, he kind of gave us a presentation about 10 or 15 things he wanted to change about all of Matlacha that had nothing really to do with the Blue Dog and the variants that they're looking for. John, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm Kathleen Walsh. I'm with the Matlacha Civic Association, and I'm on the Lee County Historical Preservation Board. The one thing about Matlacha restaurants is many of us walk or bike there. So that's something to keep in mind when we were considering this situation, is so many people who eat there don't even drive. So that's my, you know, sort of my 2 cents on that part of it.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, Jug Creek Special Exception. This is relatively new. First insufficiency letter is out. Responses are due currently. Essentially, they're looking to have consumption on premises for alcohol in a marina industrial zoning district, which, if I understand correctly, does not allow that to happen without seeking variances. So I think that's what Jug Creek is looking for. Most everybody knows where that is. And the reality is well, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. They're seeking variances, let's just say, after the fact. And I, yes. Yeah, there's the actual tower itself. And so somebody asked about what's going on there at this stage of the game. Second insufficiency letter went out about 3 weeks ago. They finally, they asked for an exception to be longer than they should have in terms of responding back, but they did respond back on November 2nd. As I said, it was 87 pages worth of information. I would bet that we're within a question or two of the county determining that it's a sufficient application. Yes. And I don't think we'll get to a point unless, you know, the applicant decides that the county's being too onerous and decides to pull up stakes and walk away. I think that pretty much the county's job is to work them towards a sufficient application and then let the wash clear it out somewhere between, you know, the planner's recommendation and the HEX hearing that comes up. I think we have, and again, I'm not speaking for Greater Pine Island Civic Association. I'm speaking as a private citizen where that's going to be on my street, that I think we have a reasonably good case. You know, as you can all imagine, Skyway Towers is an LLC business, and they've got, you know, 2 or 3 people, lawyers on staff, who answer all of this stuff, and we've got a bunch of residents who are kind of up in arms about this. But there are some things that I think are a good case, but the other part that I don't like about this process is that if it's really the way I think it is, and it gets to a hearing examiner, one person making a decision, I just don't think that's the right thing. I'm hoping that I'm wrong about that, and that really this would go to the county commissioners as the planning department, or whatever, what'd you say, planning? Board, thank you. That would seem to make more sense to me, but, you know, if it ends at the hearing examiner, it just doesn't feel right to me. And so we as individual citizens, unless we want to pay, you know, somewhere between $800 and $2,000 an hour to, you know, some lawyers to try and argue this on our behalf, we'll just be there en masse to try and change the hearing examiner's mind. And I felt a lot better about it, except that our internal planner just gave notice to Lee County the other day and is going to work for an engineering firm in Naples. So that was not good news, because he was a good guy and very open, and, you know, we could have good discussions with him. And whoever ends up taking his place will now write this opinion, denial or approval, that will go to the hearing examiner. Yeah. You ought to sit closer, or maybe just take the mic with you.
I just remembered last
We're
week,
almost done.
George Samalot still. Last time this young lady made this presentation for this, she presented as forthright as she could in the fact that she made it clear that Josefa seems to have a shortcoming in cell phone reception. And a woman from the audience brought up the topic of, why are you sticking this in residential land? There are so many agriculturists here on this island that have recovered, but not financially. Why not lease 40 by 40 square feet from them and put the antenna there? Everybody's a winner. Now, it seems clear to me that this has never been presented to Skyway. How do you do this? I speak from personal experience. I ran 36, they call them quadras in Puerto Rico, but acres that was zoned as a farm that belonged to the family that nobody wanted to pay the taxes on. And I got a lease for a cell tower for AT&T for 20 years. They supported the property taxes of that land.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is, how can this concept be presented to Skyway as an alternative? Are we too far down the rabbit hole?
Yeah. I'll give you the short version and probably how the sausage is made here a little bit. This piece of property, the owner of that property is the person who started this whole process. So it's not Skyway Towers. This developer from Naples basically drove the process to get Skyway Towers involved. Reality is we've made the point that there are plenty of places, particularly on the east side of Stringfellow Road, that are just unimproved, way back in the woods. And so what they ended up doing was sending out 25 letters randomly to people asking them if they'd be interested to host. And one of the things in my back pocket is somebody called Skyway Towers and said, I'm interested. And they said, no, we're already working with somebody. So they just basically did that to
But see, that guy didn't date a lot of girls.
Yeah,
You gotta
I
keep
know.
asking.
This is, I could spend hours and hours and hours on this subject, and
But I thank you, but I'm bringing up the topic. I mean, do I have to do it? How do I go about contacting Skyway and just tapping them on the shoulders? Why don't you try them?
Yeah.
How it happened. Somebody else stepped forward and said, I'll put you on my land, which is already zoned appropriately or whatever.
You even presented
And
a farmer.
they turned it down. That's what Steve just said.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, try again.
Yeah, and I've asked them to call a second time to hopefully get the same answer. And no, I get that. I get that. They're,
Win for the guy that owns the property when it gets approved.
yeah,
It's the same concept. It is the same concept. The property owner is the one who started this ball rolling, right?
I understand what you're saying, but Skyway's got to take it one further. Excuse me.
Yeah.
We won't have as many winners, we'll have a few losers, the residents of that road.
Yeah.
Anyway, but thank you for your time.
Yeah. No, thanks. And I understand all of that. I'm working those angles too. I get it. And so in the interest of time, we have some other zoning issues. They're much smaller. Let me see if I can back. Did I just?
was just approved by the historical board last week.
And that was?
Crab Shack,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Kathleen, can you
Cajaput.
tell me about that real quick?
Yeah, it's an existing, sorry.
Yeah. And then Steve, you're next.
So the one called Crab Shack, I think it was the slide before this one, that is an existing mobile home on Cajaput. They've requested to destroy the mobile home and elevate a new single-family residence above base flood. That and another Cajaput fourplex came before HPB last Thursday, and HPB approved those. So those two have been approved. Cajaput is a street, sorry, in Matlacha. Crab Shack 2.0, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was approved, as well as the fourplex on Cajaput is being raised above base flood.
At any rate, there's 2 pages there of more minor projects, but not things that couldn't take people's time and effort. Again, I just urge you, if this is something of interest to you, we'd love to have you involved. I feel like I've got a pretty good process in place now and can certainly communicate it. We'll do some training.
We'll post, just for informational purposes, when I post the meeting minutes from tonight and the meeting recording, we'll have the PowerPoint posted as well. So
Good idea.
everything in the PowerPoint we'll have up there.
Yeah.
Can you just give a really quick expectation going forward of how this will be incorporated in?
Yeah,
the meetings going forward?
we've got to figure this out because we obviously can't spend an hour and 10 minutes, every meeting doing this. What I'm hoping is that things that are sort of percolating towards, maybe what I would say is things where I think that we need to start thinking about inserting ourselves, that we'll bring those to the group. So hopefully it won't be but 2 or 3 things, maybe new projects that are coming on. It's still to be figured out. But we're not going to cover every one of these topics every time we come. We're going to either cover the new ones that have come on, or this is a project where now I think we need to insert ourselves and get something done, and that's still to be figured out. Thanks. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Haven't I done enough?
I feel like he has to talk. Give him a break.
Well,
Use that or use that?
this is the public hearing request from, I don't know the name of the company you're using on there, but Steve Soloway is here and going to talk about this request from the county for this restaurant in Matlacha.
We actually just came here for the karaoke. So Mike and I, we are working with TDM to rezone 4100 Pine Island Road Northwest. It's the lot that is adjacent to the old kayak rental that got hit pretty hard by Hurricane Ian and Milton. So that property where the building currently is zone C1. It's already approved for restaurant use, no problem with that, but we don't have adequate parking for the restaurant. So the county is requiring 14 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of covered area. So we have to have a minimum of 37 spaces. I'm passing around the site plan of kind of how it's going to look. currently the lot is zoned RM6. So that's residential multifamily. So for like a 6-unit condominium complex or something. But I'll walk over here so I can kind of point out. So currently, TDM and Veronica will be able to tell you this a little bit more, but we paid an environmental engineer to make sure that we're not going to disturb any of the EC area. So they're going to take core samples, make sure that we don't disturb anything that shouldn't be disturbed, that's protected. But this dotted line right here, this is the C1 lot. This is the RM6 lot. This is the parking that we want to add. This is basically existing. It's kind of torn up now from the bridge construction, but this is all going to go back in, no problem. We have a pretty huge setback off of Pine Island Road that the county is forcing us to put in order to get the permits to build the restaurant. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with Michelli's, right? Not enough parking. They park all the way up to the road and then down the road. Well, they're never going to let that fly for us. So we have to, this property here is essential for us to be able to get the certificate of occupancy to open the restaurant. We do not own it. We have a 20-year lease with first right of refusal on the property. The woman that owns the property said she's not ready to sell it because her and her husband bought it and he passed away. So she's kind of, I think it's more sentimental value, but she's an older woman. She lives in Connecticut. Super nice woman, though. But we have a long-term lease for it. So it's. You want to go?
Just a more casual restaurant with some entrees and a lot of sandwiches, but just, I guess, middle-of-the-road prices, nothing super high-end, nothing, just family-friendly, you know.
So it's going to be mostly lunch and dinner. On holidays and weekends, we've been talking about being open for breakfast and brunch, but it wouldn't be a 7-day-a-week breakfast spot. It'll be but a casual dining restaurant, but for sure family-friendly. I mean, so Mike and I, we live here. Between us, we have 7 kids, so it's got to be
Not together.
right. Not. I mean, we're together, but we're not together. But we want it to be an environment where you bring your kids and you feel like you're getting a value when you go there. That's not going to break the bank when you go there and you have a couple kids and you get a date night. There's a lot of people probably don't know this. There's 300 feet of beach right there. So we're going to have tiki umbrellas going down the beach with some Adirondack chairs so kids can play in the water, build sand castles, all the stuff that kids want to do, get dirty.
You answered my beach question, which I hardly call it a beach. I never will. I will never say there's a beach on Pine Island. You can go to 2 Towel.
So we're going to be working on that as well. So
are you going to bring sand in? Is that what you're telling us?
That is the idea.
Okay.
Okay.
So where are you in the permitting process for that? Because you can't just bring sand in and dump it.
Right. So currently it is white sand there now. So we will have to get a permit to gentrify the beach, right, to bring in more sand. A lot of it is sand that went into the channel that we're hoping to be able to get a permit to pump that sand out of the channel and back to the beach. Because there is so if a lot of you guys are probably boaters, so if you go through there after Hurricane Ian, that water became very, very shallow, and it's from all of the aggregate that went from the land into the water.
That's been shallow for 100 years. That's not changed since Ian. That's been a shallow, the miserable mile. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows Matt Lachey. It's always been shallow. So my other question is there's a lot of struggling moms and pops restaurants on this island. I work at a lot of them. Is this going to be a corporate type restaurant?
You're looking at the 2 owners.
Why should you guys get the parking availability that other restaurants on this island have been struggling with for years? And y'all just come in here and I got the money, but there's 11 restaurants on this island currently. And that's just in Pine Island. I'm not talking about Lachey. But why should you come in and destroy the little conglomerates with your beach and your big fancy whatever that you're saying is not going to be fancy, that's going to be mid-grade? Just throwing it out there.
Mike, you should talk about what you owned in the Cape.
Oh, yeah, I came to Cape Coral with just me and my wife, and we started up, it was an Irish pub on Southwest Cape. It was called Overtime. We started to build it up. It was called Overtime, and we started from nothing. And we built up. We sponsored every single kids team that walked through the door. We sponsored medians. We did everything the community asked for. We did charity events, and we grew up with Cape Coral, and Cape Coral loved us, and we had a great experience there. And we opened that business, and it was a little big for us, and we started it with a negative $500 bank account, and that was 8 years ago. So we're not a conglomerate. We are your mom and pops that. Are
you going to keep that open?
What's that?
Mike sold Overtime 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
To semi-retire, and then he realized he didn't like to be retired.
No, I love the business, and I'm ready to get back into it, to be with the community and do all our events for the community, like just what me and my wife like to do.
And as far as restaurants on the island that don't have adequate parking, I mean, that's unfortunate. I mean, I love Reed, right? And, I mean, he has a parking issue there. There's no doubt about it. If you go to Blue Dog, Jesse and John are great guys. They have a parking issue there. Michelli's, I mean, I know Joe and Vinny passed away, and Mikey Michelli, and I know all those guys. And they have a parking issue there. The reality is that the county allowed it, and now they're not. So the only way that we can open, it's not that Mike and I want to put a parking lot there. We would be completely happy with people parking on the grass there. However, the county's not going to allow that to happen. So that's the change that they're forcing us to make. If the county would say, yeah, just put grass back out there and people park on the grass, that would be completely fine with us. But they won't accept that. I hope that answers your question.
I just wanted to let everyone know who doesn't know Mike and Steve. First of all, I used to live in Cape Coral. I've lived here in Lee County over 40 years, but Mike used to sponsor things and programs that we did with, like Relay for Life, American Cancer Society, little programs that we did. So I know that he's a wonderful guy. He's been here a long time, and I just want to let you know that Steve also has been here quite a long time. So it's not a corporation. It's our local gentlemen who are giving us an opportunity for a restaurant that Matt Lachey desperately needs. We just had a building torn down today. The big brown crooked building, if you haven't left the island, it's gone. It's flattened, and it'll be a nice clean piece of dirt by the end of the week. We had a couple other buildings torn down last week, and hopefully the cement building will be torn down maybe next week. But I digress, but what I'm getting back to the two gentlemen is that they live here, and they own businesses, and we want to support Matt Lachey. We're so hungry and so eager to get on our feet. So we are now in the healing process. And no more sorrow, no more sadness. Now we are on the road to recovery, and we are looking forward to having you guys help us out.
Well, and so my grandparents moved out to Pine Island in Captain's Harbor and bought a brand new condo in 1983. And so I've been coming down here since the year I was born. I'm from Michigan originally. My aunt and uncle live on Pine Island. I mean, I've been coming to this island since literally the day I was born. So we're not trying to do anything that's going to hurt this island. We're not trying to do we're not building an Applebee's out here. It's going to be it will be a family-friendly place, for sure. That's a perk.
More questions about the permitting on the beach. I'm assuming you guys will go forward regardless of whether or not you get permits to add additional sand in that area.
Yeah, so the architect, the engineering company, they're going to be handling all the permit stuff. That's not really in our lane. Veronica may be able to speak to some of that stuff.
So real environmental concerns, there's mangroves down there. I know it's not right exactly there, but it's an issue.
Okay. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is actually to discuss the rezoning of the multifamily portion of this land to a commercial designation to permit the parking lot. We will be back here with full site construction plans. Full site construction plans, environmental plans, landscaping plans, and architectural elevations. So we will be presenting again. We do have an environmental consultant on site. We do know that there are mangroves on that site, so we are not impacting them. We're getting a formal wetland jurisdictional line, so we know exactly where the parking lot can fit. This is our best guess according to the aerials and the site that's been cleared to this point. But again, that line may shift slightly once we get that JD line back. But we will be back here to present for the development order permitting, and they'll discuss the sand at that time too.
Hello, my name's Rhonda Dooley, and I have 6 generations of family here on Pine Island and 7 in Lee County. What concerns me, I think, most is it's not just the parking per se, it's the traffic. And the traffic in Mount Lachey, gets horrible. And it's a nightmare. Mount Lachey is a beautiful place, but it's a nightmare for the rest of the island to try to get off and on the island, especially when you're working or if you got appointments. The traffic gets backed up. And right there, when you come in, where you're talking about, I just think that's going to be horrendous, to that area, to get in and out of there. And we do have enough mom and pop restaurants on the island to do business with, and we're just, I just don't think that's a good area to do that.
So part of the zoning application, we have to do a traffic impact study to determine how much traffic will be generated by this restaurant. We do one for the AM peak hours, which is, 8 to 10, and then the PM peak hours is 5 to 7. They have not determined that a turn lane is needed. When I drove by tonight, I do believe that the speed limit right there is 35 miles per hour. 30. Okay, 30. Apologize. I was going 35. Speeding. Yeah. But we're not required to do a turn lane there, and I don't even think there would be room to provide one there. We are providing the parking that the county is requiring for the restaurant. It's been very evident to me. I've been here since 2006, and I've been to multiple restaurants on Mount Lachey. That parking has historically been a problem. So the county is trying to correct that problem going forward in the future, but they can't make it retroactive to existing restaurants.
Yeah, that's just a small area. That's just a little strip. My husband's family actually lived in a little fishing shack right there, and there were 8 kids in the family, and they had pack up, moved to the center because of the high tide. The water came right up to the back door.
So I'd say that, I know you said that there's enough mom and pop restaurants here, but Hooked is gone and it's not coming back. Old Fish House is gone, it's not coming back. And that I know of, right? Burt's is gone. I mean, so when you say there's plenty of restaurants here, well, I just named 3 within 200 feet of each other they're gone. So when we're adding a restaurant that will be smaller than Burt's capacity-wise, we're just...
But we don't have the parking, and the traffic is just limited. It's just a limited area that you're talking about. Right there is the entrance of coming onto the island. It's just a bad spot.
So That's the purpose of us, I think, having this is to explain that we can generate the parking inside of our leased space.
And there is Michelli's, and there is Yucatan, there is Blue Dog, right there, you know, in that area. And I'm sure there'll probably be more that pop up along the way when they get past these hurricanes.
Steve, can you tell the audience exactly where this property is located right before the bridge?
Yeah, this property is before the drawbridge, so. No. It's on the Cape Coral side of the drawbridge, so it's after Michelli's. Do you know where Shoreview Drive is? Yeah, where Gulf Coast Kayaks was. So when you're coming in, it's Michelli's, then you have A1, the marina, then you have Shoreview Drive where there's that little micro resort down there on the right, and then it's immediately after that you'll see a big area of mangroves that's protected, and it's immediately on the right.
Kathleen Walsh, Matt Lachey Civic Association. We didn't mention that they presented to MCA last week, and the MCA general membership overwhelmingly approved the concept and the restaurant. We don't have a lot of restaurants on Matt Lachey. You have a lot here on Pine Island, but we do not on Matt Lachey. And tonight is a Tuesday, and Blue Dog had people sitting outside waiting to get in, and it's not even peak season yet. There's 700 of us there. There's, I think, 7,000 of you here. And so from Matt Lachey's standpoint, we feel a little, I would say, disgruntled by the fact that we can't have a restaurant because it creates traffic for you guys coming down to Pine Island.
Oh.
But, you know, like, we need restaurants too, and we need services too. And so we've worked very hard in Matt Lachey to rebuild with very little help. And so when we have people come forward like this, when we lost 3 restaurants, we lost Faux this week, by the way. So we actually have lost 4 now. When we've lost 4 restaurants and we want to bring one back, and the traffic would go as far as that building, which isn't even to where Birch used to be, we just feel. I'm up here all the time.
I love
Yeah.
Greed. I'm going to go there as soon as we leave here. I'm wearing a Street Eats shirt under this.
And that's my point. I mean, we and Matt Lachey come up here all the time and patronize the restaurants up here. Also, regarding parking in Matt Lachey, we bike and walk. We bike and we walk. So many times when we're at a restaurant, we have not driven there, especially if I'm going to have a drink or two. I'm not going to drive anyway. So.
Thank you.
Steve, was there anything else that you wanted to share, or Mike, or any that you wanted to share tonight?
No, I think.
We will have full liquor.
I just wanted to mention that one of the things that kind of tie in what Steve was earlier trying to, show the grand scheme of what's going on the island. Matt Lachey is definitely in the recovery, and that's what they're trying to come in and do. But one of the things that we really need to do as a community, both Matt Lachey and Pine Island, is actually get with our county commissioners and get a plan for the development that's going on with both Matt Lachey and Pine Island. There needs to be some sort of cohesion, together. There used to be an overlay of specific areas was going to be this, and that. Now the county has changed all that. They have done their own thing, and then they're thinking that Pine Island is a big city like Fort Myers Beach or things like that. But And that's something that needs to be brought forward to the county commissioners, is we are a fishing, or used to be fishing, with a drinking problem, I think is how it used to go. So, but a fishing area, and we want to try to still keep that. And yes, we need to definitely get on and off the island, so there's always going to be a little touchy there until there's a developer who wants to put in another bridge. But down on Bill Killia's side rather than St. James' side. Anyway, another story there. that's where we need to get together as a community. We got to get in front of our county commissioners. We got to get a plan. One of the people that we had here previously for redevelopment of Matt Lachey area, and they were going to try to change the parking structure for the historical area to make it easier for developers. Don't know if you guys know about that. Have a talk. That way, it would be easier for establishments to come back. But we got to get together in front of our county commissioners, not just Ruane, but all of them, and get it solid, let them know what we need, what we want, and so on. But thank you for letting me talk. All right.
So as part of, thanks, Deb. As part of the, oh, you have a question?
Excuse me.
Okay, can you make it? Yeah.
Sure, real short. Vicki Werner, Bokeelia. I've often wondered, well, tonight as I'm listening to you, I'm wondering why we can't get the Eagle involved, and if some of the things that Steve has, can they be listed in the Eagle so that more of the community is aware of all this that's going on? A thought, okay.
I'm sure that Paulette is at home watching the meeting tonight on Facebook, so she does try to follow up with our meetings. I'm assuming she's going to write a story about this. So, you know, they do, you know, kind of run the stuff we send them. So.
Hi, Bill Maley, St. James City. One of the things about this, and I don't have an opinion on it yet either, but you're going to go for basically an Army Corps of Engineer and a DEC approval to dredge and put that sand back on the beach. Is that what I heard?
So that was what the contractor was talking about doing. I have no idea what that process even looks like. Mm-hmm. So if I was to say, yeah, that's what we're going to do, I'd be lying to you. That was something that he talked about possibly being able to do, but
not a bad idea anyway. But what I'm getting at is because of most of what you're talking about at the rezoning is to facilitate the ability to have parking spaces so you can have the seats for your restaurant to make it profitable.
Am I correct? It's not to make it profitable, to get an occupancy license.
Yeah, well,
it has nothing
yes, you can't
so
get it. You
we
can't get
physically
a full
cannot
liquor
open
license.
without the parking.
You can't get a full liquor license without the.
We can't get any license without it.
So backtrack, because like I said, I don't have an opinion on this project to begin with, but the concept is, do you have riparian rights to go out there and because some of this issue that you're looking to get approvals on and the whole thing is about ability to park and some of the concerns about the people here is the traffic flows in that. Are you or would you be interested later in applying to get dockage so that some of the patrons could come by boat?
We would like to do that. Mike and I have talked about that. But that's a process that it has to go through the Army Corps as well.
Yes, without a doubt.
But it would be, I mean, there's a dock next door that Mike owns, Realtor Mike Shevlin. Mm-hmm. So we were going to talk to him once we get closer to opening to see if we could possibly lease that dock from him. There's options out there, and there's stuff that we've kicked around, but there's not been any final, like, this is the path forward.
Yeah. But it may be in your future plan, which would
yeah, we would love that.
Some of the questions about what I'm hearing tonight is about traffic pattern flow and parking and whatnot. But if you had a marine-based ability to get there by boat,
yeah, that would be awesome.
It would be good for you guys and put some of the problems of traffic flow.
Right, that would be ideal because when a boat comes in, normally, at least when I'm on the boat, I've got me, my kids, my wife, and 3 other friends. Right, and I assume most people go out that way. So when that boat comes up, there's 10 people on it, not 2 people in a car.
Yeah, very few individual boaters go to the restaurant.
Yeah, so that would be ideal. We would love that.
So thank you very much. I appreciate that. But that's kind of down the road. The simple question here at this stage of the game is you've got 2 pieces of property that I believe you have a long-term lease on. One of them zoned commercial, one of them zoned multi-family residential, and this is all just about...
RM6 is a commercial zoning. It just doesn't allow for commercial parking.
There you go. So the reality is the only reason you're here is to present the idea that you're looking for a zoning variation on that piece of property to make it available for parking for your restaurant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So all that other stuff they're talking about is stuff you may do down the road, but that's not the issue at hand.
For clarifying that.
Thanks.
And with that,
This is where it starts, though.
you
because
have
some of the
you have a
projects you
question?
guys- I'm sorry.
He's next with his
Actually, he asked, I was actually, I let him go ahead.
Okay, we have to get the,
I will be real quick about it.
okay.
This is where it starts. where
Step
you
up
said
to the
you need
mic.
to be paying attention to these projects that are happening. This is where it starts, because these projects change into different projects. And they have a long-term lease, but who are they gonna lease it to next, and what are they gonna do? This is where you need to pay attention, because I've been coming to these meetings, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, longer than some of you have been on this board. And I've been following this, and I've known about these developments that are on this board that you guys are talking about today, that are already here and have been here. So this is the part you have to pay attention to. Not, oh, well, let's go ahead and do it. They're gonna put more parking in. And then next thing you know, you have 3 condos, and you need to pay attention to these small parts. And don't you guys have a current business on this island?
What's that?
Mike does.
I have a little food truck at Pineland Marina at the Tiki.
And didn't you have a tactical?
But that's, no, that's closed.
Right. Okay, just checking.
Hey, Matthew Otto, Bokelia. Can you put up the rear-facing elevation rendering?
I can show it to you here.
No, I'd rather have it on the screen.
Okay.
Can we get it on the screen? Yeah, from the water. Yeah. No, that's fine. That's great.
Oh, that's the one you want?
Yeah. So I don't know all the rules about this, but how were you able to have that restaurant at that elevation with the water right there?
We have to waterproof the restaurant to 7 feet. So there will be flood barriers from the ground to 7 feet. Because the restaurant currently sits at 4 feet over sea level. That's actually part of what they're doing.
So you're gonna have basically a seawall back there?
No, so at every opening, the concrete block that's currently there will be completely infilled. So it'll be solid concrete. And then anywhere there's an opening, whether it's a door or a window, there has to be flood dams that can be installed if there's a hurricane coming. So this building had 3.5 feet of water in it during Ian. It flooded with Helene. It flooded again with Milton. So the county, instead of lifting the entire building to be 8 feet off the ground or whatever, we're going to, at all the openings, there will be flood dams put in that can be put in the event of a storm coming that would prevent the building from flooding.
So basically, you're building this structure on the existing concrete structure that's there now? Is
Yeah,
that
the
correct?
structure will not, the footprint will not change at all.
Just, you know,
It was Gulf Coast Kayaks before there, and there was a couple other units in there as well.
So just to go back and clarify that tonight's public hearing is specifically addressing the rezone.
For the parking.
Correct, for the parking only. So as part of that process, everyone who is here, we are going to do a vote by, if you approve or agree, please stand. And please stay standing while we just do a quick count.
Deborah, are you standing or sitting? Sorry. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Those who oppose or do not agree, please stand.
Thank you, that was a much easier.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time. Don't forget your plan there. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Could you support my Little League team?
Yeah, he's very good at that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just go through our last few areas here. We already talked about the zoning. Carol, is anything that you want to highlight here for Matt Lachey?
We're looking for Christmas elves, November 22nd at the empty lot at Pine Island Road and Island Avenue. That's where we set up our Christmas trees every year. And this year we're having a Christmas tree forest. The community has come out and they sponsor everyone. Well, we're up to 20 trees. So we're putting up 20 different Christmas trees, skinny trees, fat trees, pink trees, blue trees, tall trees, short trees. Your happy tree. But we need elves to help us come out there, take them out of the boxes and fluff them. That's going to take a little while. And we need to decorate them. So we hope to see you on the 22nd of November. It's a Saturday and we're all retired. 9 a.m.
I'll be putting it on our Facebook page.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then just a few things going on at the Beacon as well, for anyone who needs or would like to participate in any of those seminars that they have going there. Our Adopt the Road tomorrow, and then the next one after that will be December 3rd. We're still doing 9 a.m.? Okay, 9 a.m. at the post office, Bokeelia. Do you want to say anything special about the next one? Okay, it speaks for itself. We did have this on last month, so if you're interested, there's those other upcoming dates and locations. We did want to just remind everyone about some closures coming up at the Little Bridge. So you see there the eastbound, and then Wednesday night, and then Thursday. So just keep that in mind if you're going out during those times, which I never do, so. Sue, anything else you want to say about your upcoming?
Just a week. 30th anniversary celebration is this Friday from 3:30 to, I believe, 7 out at the Calusa, where are we doing that? Calusa Sound Convention Center, so it's east of downtown, so you're all invited. You have to register, and it's essentially a fundraiser.
And our own Sue.
Sue, yeah. Yes, very well deserved. Okay, and I saw the signs went up today for the Stone Crab Fest, so those are out for this Sunday. And then just another reminder about the household hazardous waste. And I just learned today there's a shred event this Saturday in the Cape, right?
Kevin Carnes sent me a personal email and said there was a shred event Saturday in Cape Coral. If anybody's interested, I'd have to look up the email, and I'll give you the exact location if you want.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Carol already gave us the information on the Brown, and I saw the fence is around the old gift shop, so lots of good progress being made there. And just to wrap it up, we have our next meeting on December 2nd, and we do have Commissioner Ruane confirmed for that night.
So the big shred event is Saturday, November 8th from 9 to 11 o'clock at John E. Manning Government Complex. It's on Southeast 9th Place, if you know where it is.
Thank you, Steve. There it is, or isn't. Okay, that's what we have for tonight. Do you have any?
Move to adjourn.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Nope. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate your patience tonight.
No, he's got enough. Mike wants to give him an official title.
Oh, yeah.
Parliamentarian.
You are the new parliamentarian. We're going to buy you a judge's gavel.
Okay, sounds good.